is probably had a day full of Zoom already, so let's get this one started and then see where we're at. It's good to see a lot of folks. Appreciate you all joining. Didn't expect that we would get 100 as we did the last time I did this, because that you are all here today just to get some updates. And again, it's just nice seeing everybody. So I hope everybody's well, enjoying this wonderful spring weather, which is why I say people live in the great state of Maine. Yes, and do want to say may the 4th be with you. The president opened up her daily email or daily Zoom call this morning with that same sentiment. I'll follow that very much. Just a couple housekeeping things. Number one, I'm going to try not to remove my chair and be a distraction. Number two, what I've done is I'm not going to share PowerPoint with you all. I know you all are very disappointed, but trying to keep things simple and just have a conversation. So I'm going to share some things, but follow up this extension connections with an email, because there may be some things that I mentioned that you don't have a chance to get down, write down, that kind of thing. So any of that pertinent information will be coming to you soon after this. I would ask if you could please mute yourself, just because now I've been on several very embarrassing Zoom calls where people have not muted themselves and had conversations about the meeting that is happening with other people that aren't a part of the meeting. Yeah, and that's just embarrassing. So let's not do that. But as I mentioned, we're going to do hopefully some discussion at the end, because I know there's still a lot of questions out there. So my goal is to go through some things and then just open it up at the end for questions and comments, and certainly unmute yourself and feel free to utilize the chat box as well. I think, blah, 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 I think as I look through my notes, and yeah, I think we're good to go. What I'm going to try to do is not have this, so I'm craning my neck over. Hold on just a second. Okay, so yeah, May 4th. What I want to do is, before I get started, just acknowledge that we're now 6 weeks into our new normal, into working like this. And again, for some, it's been easier than others. And so we've spent a lot of time in talking about the phenomenal work that folks have been doing, and it's truly awe-inspiring in what you all have come up with and how you've pivoted and how you are addressing needs and meeting needs. And I'm so thankful and grateful in all of those things. But I also want to acknowledge that for some, it's been really hard these last 6 weeks. I think I mentioned this in a couple meetings about a week ago. I hit my wall about 2 weeks ago, where just I counted the days success that I answered the few emails that I absolutely had to answer, and just had to kind of walk away for a little bit. So just want to acknowledge that, and that I hope you're all still taking time to figure out what this all looks like, to take a breath, to even take yourself off your video screen, because now I've read a lot of studies that say Zoom meetings are actually shared with you said that, just because it takes a lot more mental energy to focus on nonverbals and to focus on, what's happening behind me or anything like that. So again, feel free to take yourself off video if you want to. I'm okay with you typing or doing whatever else you need to do. Again, I think this is just a lot of information, but I also want to make sure that you're taking care of yourselves. And actually had the conversation in our weekly check-in this morning with the ELT is it's actually okay to take a day off when we work from home. Use an annual leave day, use a half day, go out and work in your gardens. I feel like we've all been going at this for a very long time. And so whatever you need to do to keep just a good perspective and just a good thought on life, please do it. So that is my public service announcement for the day. The other thing I want to say is I haven't had a chance to respond to them all, but I really want to thank folks who reached out after my email on Friday. I appreciate the thoughts, and Friday was actually a lot of fun. I was going to share a couple Zoom screens that were shared with me. Again, I give a lot of creative credit to Tori Jackson, who created a PowerPoint slide of all my extension connections, pictures, and the evolving hairstyles. I didn't want to share that because it's kind of embarrassing, and I was actually having a somewhat decent good hair day today, so that's why we're not doing PowerPoint. But I just really want to share everybody's good humor and willingness to take the time. It is over, like, I cannot believe it's been a year, especially since the last 6 weeks have kind of felt like a year in itself. But I'm just so happy to be here. I'm so happy to be back in the state. I'm so happy to be doing what I'm doing, even in times of crisis like these times. And so I couldn't do it without you all. So thank you for the good wishes. And yeah, let's see what the next year brings. Hopefully smooth sailing from here on out. I do want to mention, I have said all along I was going to try out these extension connections and see how they went. If nobody joined me, I would stop doing them because there's no need to waste anybody's time. I think they're going pretty well, so my goal is we will continue to do them. If you want to mark the first Monday of the month or the second Monday, if the first Monday happens to be a holiday as it is in September, for I think Labor Day, but let's keep doing them because I do think it's a great way to share information and just stay connected. And so I appreciate that. My goal probably is moving forward that we will have some sort of special guest because I like that. But today it was just, we have a lot of information that we need to share and talk about. So that's why we don't have a special guest today. I do want to say I did put together just some overarching thoughts for the year. My first thought that I came up with when I think about this past year in this position is I've had a chance to talk with a lot of my peers across the country who are in a similar position, whether it's dean or director, whatever the title is. I also have an interesting perspective just from my past, and I say this without, like, I feel like this is fact, and I truly believe that we have one of the best extension organizations in the country. I'm not going to qualify that with of our size or of the size of the state. I'm just simply saying I truly believe we have one of the best extension organizations in this country. I feel like, especially in the last 6 weeks, other states certainly are looking to us for the programming that we've done, for the leadership that you all have shown. And again, this is hugely gratifying from my perspective. And so, again, thank you to that. Does that mean that we're perfect? Not at all. And I don't think we'd want to be perfect because that'd be kind of boring after a while. So clearly we have things we can work on, and we're going to be given that opportunity to do so. Clearly you all have some fantastic ideas. We're going to talk about defining tomorrow towards the end of this time together. But I just want to say, again, I am very proud to be a part of this organization and be a part of the work that you all do. So thank you for that. I also realized, since we've all been kind of place bound for the last 6 weeks, that truly the first, I guess, 9 months of the job, I spent more time on the road than I did in the office. And was that a good thing or a bad thing? It was a great thing, because I am so thankful that I took the time to visit all the offices and to see a lot of the programs happening, because it's been helpful as we think about how these programs have pivoted, how our offices, are shutting down in March, but maybe reopening this summer, just to have that visual of what these offices look like as we have these meetings and talk about it. So again, thankful that I did spend that time on the road, even though I feel like I still am playing catch up and I still have a mountain of notes. It goes to one of my emails, I guess, several weeks ago. I thought I'd have all this extra time working from home to catch up on the notebooks of notes that I took and compile all these. I haven't. I'm still holding out hope that I will do so, but probably not going to happen. This last year also, we had a pretty significant budget cut in our, we had the mid-cycle cut about 2 months after I got here. I believe it was early August, so 3 months. We had a mid-cycle cut to the FY20 budget, and then certainly took another hit for the FY21 budget that we actually submitted in December. I'm going to talk about budgets again moving forward towards the end, but I feel like we do have certainly still some holes that should be filled that haven't been. We're going to need to think about that certainly moving forward too. Again, we'll hold out to that, but just thinking about this last year and some of the challenges and opportunities that have occurred in the last year. As I've always done, what I wanted to do is kind of look back at the last month, just to give you all an idea of kind of what's been on my radar screen. Much of this you already know just because of my emails that I've been sending out. My plan is to continue to send out probably 3 emails a week because I feel like information is going to start coming again that fast that we need to continuously update you all on what's happening at the different levels and discussions and decisions that are being made. If it needs to, I'll go down to 2 emails a week. I don't want to overburden your inboxes because I know we all are getting way too many emails, but I do want to share with you the information as I get it. So, as I mentioned, last April 6th, which where did the month go? President Farini Mundy joined us, as you can imagine, and again, we got 106 on this. This is amazing, and I don't even have the president as a draw. This is super cool. You know, we were on April 6th, we were only about 2 weeks into working like this, and I think we were all still drinking from the fire hose trying to figure things out. So what a difference a month makes in all of that. I am grateful that I've had the opportunity to meet with many county offices with your staff meetings. I've met with different program teams, different groups, and it's been a wonderful opportunity just to, again, see everybody on the screen and check in, answer questions as we've been able to answer them. So really thankful for the opportunities for you all to allow me to join you. Certainly, again, we're going to talk about the future as much as I know, but I'm certainly happy to continue to join you all as schedules allow and certainly to discuss any things that come up. The Department of Agriculture, Conservation, and Forestry, roundabout that first week in April, started a weekly call as well with the ag stakeholder group, just different entities like Extension around the state involved in agriculture. Those meetings are continuing and really discussing, again, how do we meet the needs in the ag sector? And then the discussions now are evolving, as a lot of our discussions are evolving, about what the future looks like and future programming, future opportunities, that kind of thing. As I mentioned before, the president is still doing 3 mornings a week, and that's where I get a lot of the information that I share with you, is her presidential call, which is about 50 people, administrators from around campus and also the University of Maine Machias, and again, updates. It's amazing. Those meetings have always been on my calendar for 30 minutes. There's been only 1 meeting that's lasted 30 minutes. You'd think they'd change the calendar invite, but neither here nor there. But they usually go about an hour just because there are a lot of moving pieces to all of this and discussions. And so that's my thinking, is as long as she's still having those presidential calls and updates, I'll continue my email updates because I feel like there are things that come out of those calls that are important. In addition to that, we've been doing at least 3 Dean's Council meetings a week. Just going to leave that there. I have some other comments about that number. We're just going to leave it there because we are recording. So I've had the opportunity to participate in 3 Dean's Council meetings a week. Yep. So we also did a new employee orientation in April. So we're still bringing on folks, and again, had a wonderful opportunity to touch base with our new employees of the last 6 months. So that was great. This is going to be a piece that's in my email follow-up as well. I've mentioned to you all a good bit of my time this last year has been spent on the Natural and Working Lands work group of the Maine Climate Change Council. And this is interesting because the state is, you know, the state's going to be in a bad budget situation moving forward as well when we think about lost revenue and we think about the implications of COVID-19 to the state. The governor has expressed her interest in moving forward the work of the Maine Climate Council because there's been a lot of work that has been done, and that work is not going to stop. It is going to continue. So I sit on the Natural and Working Lands group. We are to the point of having developed some strategies that we will need some input on from stakeholders and community members. And so in my email follow-up today, I'm going to share the information about the work group and a link to the strategy document. And if you work with, whether it's ag, or if you work in a county that has a lot of forestry, or again, natural land. So pretty much anybody who owns some land in Maine will be interested in the work of this group. I encourage you to share what I'm going to share with you all about stakeholder input, because we really need to hear from folks around the state with this. So that's my request for you all for that. I think this is very interesting, and a positive note is we meaning Cooperative Extension, are part of a federal request. Again, I think the federal government is literally just printing money at this point in time, but if they want to print some and send it our way, we will take it. And so the APLU, which is the Association of Public Land Grant Universities, which the University of Maine is a part of, APLU is in Washington, D.C., and they are leading an effort to garner some additional Phase 4 funding for both Cooperative Extension and the Ag Experiment Stations. Cooperative Extension's request is $80 million. $64 million of that will be divvied up between the states according to their capacity funding formula. So whatever, again, of that 64 million, we would be given our allocation that goes in line with our federal formula allocation, which would be great. Then the rest of that money, I think 16 million, will be in a competitive granting program for extension. So the additional monies may come as part of that as well. We had a very short window. The APLU requested that we reach out to industry groups for their sign-on to show that they were in support of this effort. And so within about 48 hours, all the major ag commodity groups here in the state and industry groups and stakeholder groups signed on to that effort, which I was really pleased about when I sent the list into the APLU. So stay tuned with that. Again, it could be a real boost for us if that money were to come in, and a real bright spot as far as budgets go. I am part of a group on campus, and I want to say this, and again, you're going to hear me say it again. These last 6 weeks have been extraordinarily hard. I mean, they have. Probably the hardest point in time in my career, but we have had some really great positives that have come out of it as well. And by that, I mean, there are groups now in extension that have worked together that have never worked together before. Like we've broke down some boundaries. We're really doing some great cross collaborations. And I think that's wonderful. And it's happening on campus too. And one of the groups that I'm a part of involves, and again, we're going to talk about this as far as the decisions go, but one of the groups I was put on pretty early on were groups from UMaine that do things with K through 12 kids during the summer. All right, yeah, we do a lot of that actually. Unbeknownst to me though, there's probably over 20 some other institutions in the University of Maine that also do K through 12 summer programming. Engineering does a summer program, obviously music camps, athletic camps, astrology camps. And it was the first time that all the groups that provided summer programming at the University of Maine ever got together to talk about summer programming under the University of Maine. I think that's pretty cool that we've gotten together and that we know each other exist. And again, to think about now some of the linkages, and it was great. At one of the meetings, Lisa joined in from a 4-H perspective, and so now on the 4-H page, we're sharing some of the other educational offerings that some of the other entities are doing. And again, that's what we need to be doing. So again, a lot of positives have come out of this. As I mentioned, I'm part of this summer group, which has been really great. The other thing I want to mention, I sent out a request to our faculty group to talk about how research learning may still be occurring with students that they work with, either undergrads or graduate students, formally or informally. And again, got a wonderful response. And the group that met in regards to that was really just, again, blown away by the work that Extension does, that I think nobody realized that. So those meetings have been really positive of all the meetings that I have. And again, seemingly the meetings are never ending. Um, I do want to give a shout out, and it's okay if people say Hannah favors 4-H because I am a former 4-Her. But I had a very long week of Zoom, so much so I think on 2 days of that week, I had literally 15 minutes that was not on Zoom from about 8 to 5:30 on both days. And I was just pretty unbearable to deal with. It's a good thing I only live with cats because they don't really care afterwards. But I had agreed to serve as a judge for the state 4-H public speaking contest on that Saturday after this very long week. May have been the same week that I hit my wall on. I can't who's to say anymore. But my office where I'm located here is actually upstairs in my house. And so Saturday morning, I trudged up the stairs to log back onto Zoom to spend a good portion of the day participating as a judge for the 4-H public speaking tournament, and may have grumbled a little bit about it on my way up the stairs because it was a Saturday. Uh, that went out the window after about the first 5 minutes because we had a team of folks that figured out how to put the statewide 4-H public speaking competition online, and we had a group of 4-Hers that knocked it out of the ballpark. So it was an extraordinary event. And again, just really want to give a shout out to the people that made that happen. I was, as I've mentioned this before, made to do 4-H public speaking as a youngster because my 4-H leader thought it would be good for me, as you do. Didn't want to do it, and so thankful that I did do it that first time and had the opportunity to continue throughout my 4-H career. So I just really am thankful that I got to participate in that day. And again, any concern I think we have about the future generation, we shouldn't, because man, they're adaptable and resilient and can figure things out and really do an extraordinary job. So really enjoyed doing that. We also, as many of you participated in, and so thankful for that, we had Volunteer Appreciation Week in April. And just again, shout out to Lynn Holland for putting stories and pictures and everything together. Because even in doing life this way and programming this way, we still need our volunteers. And so grateful that we got to spend some time appreciating them during April. One of the last things we did in the month was, and again, indicative of the importance that Extension is playing to the state right now, Chancellor Malloy is doing a weekly Zoom call with state legislators. This started 3 weeks ago, and each week that they do it, they want to feature a different entity from the University of Maine System that is supporting the state of Maine. The first week they had Jake Ward speak about the work that his shop is doing under manufacturing hand sanitizer and some of the work with MEMA. Second week was all about Extension. And so what I loved is the chat box for that Zoom call, and there was about 50 legislators on the call, was just filled with how much these legislators love Extension and love the work that is done around the state. And so kudos to you all and the counties who make that happen and make that known, because certainly they are very appreciative of it, and to the point where I want to try to figure out, okay, how do we support you all in doing what you're doing? So it's been a heck of a month, that's for sure. Who would have thought we would ever be working like this? And again, who would have thought anybody would have any extra time in their day? I do want to give a couple UMaine updates because I think they're important too, being part of this. Last week, I don't know if anybody participated in it. I watched it just because I was curious and I wanted to be supportive of our colleagues across campus. But they did a virtual groundbreaking for a new building that's going to be on the University of Maine campus. It's an engineering building. It is about 7 years in the making, and it's a lot of public-private partnerships to make this happen. Why I mention it is because I think this is a great example of what can happen when somebody has a really big dream, as Dean Humphrey had about 7 years ago, and he made it happen. And so again, I think we can think that way about some big dreams and think about public-private partnerships and possibly some private money to make some things happen. So I think it should inspire us to think about doing the same, because apparently people told him he was crazy. and that it would never happen. And so the fact that they had this virtual groundbreaking last week, I think is really a testament to his leadership and stick-to-itiveness to make it happen. And one other thing I really want to mention on a Friday afternoon, last Friday, again, Friday was a great day. On Friday evening, we got the email that the number of freshman deposits exceeded the number of this time last year, which, think about that. So the last year, what have we heard? Freshmen coming to the University of Maine, and then the retention rate. So how do we recruit them here, and then how do we retain them? So last year we had a lot of upheavals, again, bad budgets, this is the reason why we had to do the mid-cycle cut. There has been some transition in leadership in enrollment management, and on Friday afternoon we exceeded where we were at this time last year in the midst of this pandemic. That could mean really actually a bright spot for us this fall when we talk about budgets because of that. And so I mentioned that all to you because I think we're going to have opportunities again to play a role in freshman recruitment, in retainment, in interacting with students, and all of that moving forward. And I know that there's some ideas about that percolating around this group too. All right, so I'm going to take a break, take a breath, take a drink. So now let's talk about moving forward. I know there's a lot of questions, and last week we certainly had the governor's announcement. There's a lot of information out there, and I said, please just be patient. So I'm gonna kind of just give us some guiding philosophies that you've heard before, but I feel like it's good to remind people of these things is, again, number one, be patient. We will not have all the answers that people would like us to have today, tomorrow, probably even by the end of the week, but we're working on it. So just take a deep breath. Please be patient. I feel like, as you all probably have seen too, is tides are turning and people really want to return to, again, normal or return to life as they knew it. And I'm not sure that's going to happen. I mean, just life as we knew it is we've got a new normal and we've got to think about new things. So again, be patient. I've mentioned this before, and I really feel like I'm going to have two conflicting statements, but bear with me. So I've mentioned this before, is one size does not fit all. Again, when we started the process of moving people to working remotely and whatnot, I mean, we did it and we did it quickly, and it was pretty much boom, boom, boom. We're all now working remotely. I think coming forward, that's not going to be the case. I think depending on if it's county differences, program differences, even our physical structures in our offices differences, one size may not fit all, and we're going to have to figure that out and what that looks like. And so just, again, please refer back to point one, just be patient. So this is the conflicting statement. While one size may not fit all, we need to have some sort of centralized decision making. So we're all making decisions based on the same set of guidelines, the same set of information, the same policies. It just may mean that we, again, in taking that information, may have to make some changes according to what's happening in different locations, in different counties, in different areas, that kind of thing. But what we don't want happen is to have the centralized decision making, which here's kind of the communication, here's the decisions, here's what this looks like, and then we have one office, one unit, one area that just goes rogue and decides to do their own thing, because that won't be good for any of us. So, and one of the reasons why I believe we haven't seen anything come from the system yet, or the university yet, about moving forward, especially after the governor's new order of last week, is that this is occurring at the system level as well. And so they're trying to get on the same page as far as all the campuses go. So you don't have one campus doing one thing and another campus doing another thing. So again, you're going to hear this more and more, but just this is why we're doing it, and we will follow the same policies, procedures, and whatnot. I'd like for us to, again, if we do have to make decisions that look different in different areas, it would be based on what we have been given from either the system or from the university. Remember when we were doing this very rapidly to like work remotely? I think the same thing's going to happen as we think about returning or we think about coming back to our offices or programming. Is it's going to be fluid and things may change. So a decision that is made one week may evolve, may change again according to the governor, according to the CDC, according to the system. If you all read the governor's strategies moving forward, there was a lot of ambiguity. There was a lot of wordage like contemplates, which, what does that mean? It could happen, it may not happen. So again, revert back to number one, be patient. Remember, I think this was like in one of my earlier emails, we're going to still give each other a whole lot of grace. Hopefully we still have some left from this last month, 6 weeks or so. So just remember that moving forward. I did learn this from this morning's calls, is that there is going to be a communication sometime probably in the early part of this week, which I would assume between now and Wednesday. There's going to be some sort of communication from the system about the remainder of May. Because as you all know, we're working remotely through May 17th per the Chancellor's order. So there's going to have to be some sort of communication about the remainder of the month and how our work looks like. So that's going to come out, we were told, early this week. There's going to be a hint of June from the system by the end of the week. I have no idea what that means. I literally wrote it down on my notes as you just heard it. There is going to be a hint at what June looks like by the end of the week, which means I think they're trying to start thinking about what June looks like and want to let folks know that. The other thing I want for folks to know, because we've been getting emails as well, is obviously to open up county offices, to open up facilities, whether it's camps or the DRL or anything like that, we work under a new operating system of plexiglass barriers between the public and that front reception desk. What about 6 feet distancing signs? What about all of those things? At this point in time, they're all going to come from UMaine. So no county office is going to have to create or buy their own like plexiglass barrier. We've been requested, we get these requests a couple times a week, is how many plexiglass barriers would you need? And we think about all of our offices and all of our units and probably add a few extra and we submit that number. The same thing that goes for, let's say, face masks and other materials like those things, those are going to come from the university because they're going to order a huge mass, gross number of them. And MEMA, the Maine Emergency Management Agency, has now designated the university on their list of units that can order those things. We're not in competition, or the university wouldn't be counted as competition for healthcare workers, those type of things. So I just say that because I know there's been a lot of like, well, what happens, even hand sanitizer, the university is buying in bulk and trying to figure out how do they distribute to all the different entities. And this is one thing I do want to say, and I've been really impressed with is, and again, it's due to the last 6 weeks, is the extension is part of these decisions, and we are not an afterthought, and people are not going, oh, it's only Maine campus, it's only Maine campus. It's we've got to get these resources out to our different counties and to our different areas. So I just say that. Now, does that mean that counties may have to figure out certain things? Probably at some point in time, but some of these common new normal things that we're all going to have to be a part of, or that are going to be required by the university if we are considering going back to our offices, those are going to have to be provided by the university. So I mentioned that. So I have, moving on, just some areas of discussion as far as what we know, kind of where we're at as far as thinking about returning to work or returning to whatever we can return to. I'm going to go through these and then mention a few other things and then open it up for discussion and for questions. And I know that ELT members are on here and we'll try to answer everything that we can if we have the information. So county offices, as I mentioned before, as far as materials and resources that you may need, as I've joined the different county office Zooms, I've mentioned this is begin to think about what safely starting would look like. Could it be done? Are your offices configured that you have 6 feet between desks or between workstations? Some offices, yes, and some offices, that's probably not possible. So what are we going to have to do in that case? Think about social distancing in your offices. That may mean that a lot of the conference rooms that we have that are open to outside public, we may not open those to outside public anymore. It may be just for use of extension, and even those conference rooms may not be able to have the usual staff meetings that you're used to having at an appropriate 6-foot distance. So we may have to keep Zooming even from our offices with people that work in our offices, just as an example. And just posted a question about uniform janitorial procedures. We're hopeful that that guidance will come forward as well, not only for our offices here on campus, but also for our county offices as well. What does this look like? What are they going to require? Is it going to be cleaning every hour, every 3 hours, twice a day? We're waiting for those guidelines, and we expect that they will come from the system level. And the other thing is, I know, and again, we try to figure this out, like what are the things that you do in your county offices in in accordance to interacting with the public? I know a lot of county offices, soil samples are a big thing. Summertime's coming, as are pests and disease samples. What does that look like? Is there an outside tote that people leave samples? Is there a way? We've got to figure those things out. So this is one of those things that as a county, if you guys can begin to discuss what does this look like, and again, what could we come up with to still do the things that we're used to doing, but again, apply whatever guidelines, policies, procedures that are coming out. And I think we know for the most part what they are. I mean, obviously social distancing is going to keep happening for the next foreseeable future. And again, how do we do a very low, I don't know what the proper terminology is. It seems like when I go pick up my takeout, it's the no touch, like people leave the bag of food there and you go pick it up and you don't have any of those interactions. We just got to figure that out as a county. While I'm talking about the counties, just wanted to mention a couple other things. There is going to be a survey that's coming out in the next week or so to the person or people in each county that serve in a county coordinator role. And I know in some counties those responsibilities are divvied up. If that's the case, then we will send the survey out to those that have the responsibilities. In some county, it's one person, because there's some consideration that we're having in restructuring those responsibilities. And so if you're a county coordinator, or if you have those responsibilities, I want you to be as brutally honest as you would like to be. Don't hold back, because there are some changes that we would like to make. And again, I haven't lost that this was supposed to be my year of the county. It's just changed what it looks like. And so I do appreciate, again, the communications and marketing team. Give you all another shout out for all the great work you've been doing. And the 2-pager that was created, and I hope many of your counties are using that to show, again, budget committee members, county commissioners, the great work that's being done in their counties, because I know, again, we don't know what budgets are going to look like at the county level either. Research. I mentioned this to a couple of folks this morning in some emails, but the president really wants to broaden what could happen this summer in regards to research. So the research task force is meeting more, and yet again, and Mark Hutton is a part of that research task force, and thankful that he's on there. And so if you had a research proposal that was denied, it is automatically going to be reviewed. You do not need to resubmit, but the president has asked that those be reviewed pretty quickly, and that research proposals moving forward really have the opportunity to be conducted safely this summer. So if you are thinking about submitting a research proposal and didn't because you had heard that some were getting approved and some weren't, I would really encourage you to go ahead and submit that research proposal. Again, following the guidelines that we know as far as social distancing and things like that, but president really wants to make sure that research is able to be conducted this summer. And again, if you want to do some in-state travel for extension, we've had a lot of questions as far as that goes, whether you need to go drop something off that has been ordered or meet with a somebody who has some questions or needs you to look at something. Please fill out the extension form, that online form. We will approve it, and your in-state travel reimbursement should be approved moving forward. My email to you all after I'm done here this afternoon is going to include a different chart field for in-state travel. Please utilize this chart field until further notice. As you all remember, they shut down travel due to budgetary concerns, and so there was a couple instances where possibly travel reimbursements weren't happening because they were utilizing E&G dollars. So we want to use a different funding source, which is our Smith-Lever federal dollars for travel until further notice. And again, I'm going to send that chart field out to you all this afternoon. 4-H programming this summer, I'm going to say 4-H and the 4-H camps and learning centers. As I mentioned, the summer group that has been meeting put forth a recommendation to the president a couple weeks ago, and then we met last week, and we're putting forth the same proposal to the president, who then put forth that same proposal to the chancellor. And that proposal was to not have any in-person programming for the months of May, June, and July. Realizing June, yes, and the governor's strategy says they may contemplate gatherings of over 10 people. Again, being unsure of that, being unsure of what these look like, and erring on the side of caution and safety, and really being thoughtful about this. The group made the recommendation of this as no in-person programming for May, June, and July. We're waiting to hear whether that is going to be supported by the president and the chancellor, and that should probably come out in the chancellor's email early this week. So stay tuned with that. Many of our county fairs this summer have already canceled, and I know that took a lot of 4-H programming probably with it, and I know several of our big 4-H programs were already probably going to cancel anyway, because it was certainly more than 50 people. I'm thinking about Maine 4-H Days and the June Jamboree as well. So happy to answer any questions on that. Once we get the official word from the system, we will send forward some official word from extension, because I know a lot of you, especially that work with 4-Hers, are going to need to send it out to volunteers and parents and that kind of thing. What they are holding out and what our group recommended is that by June 1st, there is a recommendation made for August, because again, if everybody behaves themselves and our numbers don't go up, there could be the possibility that we actually are able to do some programming in August, and we don't want to shut the door on those possibilities of being able to provide something in August. So stay tuned on that. Budgets, again, I feel, and please know I'm not holding back anything. We really have not been given any definitive direct budget numbers. We've just been told to kind of brace ourselves. I think the good news about enrollment was just that it was great news, and maybe the hit's not going to be as hard. So that's all to say, stay tuned. One of the things I do want to mention is positions. I've had a lot of questions about positions and positions moving forward. We had 6 searches that pretty immediately froze when the budgets and travel and everything froze. We asked for those 6 positions to be considered with the new process of hiring, and that was for chancellor approval. Of our 6 positions, we asked for all of them to move forward. Apparently only 21 positions in all of academic affairs at the University of Maine moved forward. So think about that. That was of 100, actually more than 100 positions, only 21 of them moved forward. Only 9 of them were approved. And again, our agronomist position in Aroostook County was one of the 9. I'm very thankful for that to happen. There is a new hiring process moving forward. We just received the email this morning about the language. So the new, and this is going to be my email that's going to follow up this extension connections, is if you have a position that you would like to move forward, please send to your PA and copy Fran on it, the position title, the hiring department, a position number if it's available, a justification and other pertinent position details, where the funding source would be, that type of thing, and the estimated salary or hourly wage, not rage. We're not ragey about this. It's been a long day already. So once you send us that information, the ELT will discuss and decide whether that position will move forward. That position will then go into a spreadsheet that is sent to the president every other week. So it's not going to go into higher touch and then get approval. It's going to get approval from the president and then go into higher touch. So this is going to be an every other week process, and I will certainly remind you all of this. And again, this is all going to come out in the email this afternoon too. If you have any specific questions, certainly reach out to Fran or myself about that. So look at this, it's 3:45, so much for 20 minutes of questions. I'm going to go real quick, and then we'll have at least 10 minutes for questions. So that's what we know right now. What I want to do is just spend about 2 seconds talking about looking even more forward. A couple things I just want to kind of leave you all with to think about, and certainly I'm going to bring them back up. I hope in the chaos of the last 6 weeks that somewhere on the edge of a list or in the margin of a notebook or somewhere, you may be taking some notes of what's worked really well and what hasn't, because I think we need to come back to those notes. I hope you're all at some point in time reflecting on, again, we wish we would have had this or known this or done this, or wow, we need to keep doing this, or we need to keep working with these folks. Because again, I think we've learned a lot in the last 6 weeks, and I think we've changed. And what will continue, even if we discontinue working this way, meaning all remotely. So I just want to throw that out there to keep kind of in the back of your mind. Again, we had our extension book club discussion today, and it's been a really great discussion. And part of what we read for today talked about efficiency versus effectiveness. And I feel like we've been extremely efficient these last 6 weeks. We moved a lot of programming online. We figured out how to get things done. And in some ways, we've been extremely effective in that programming. I don't want to lose sight of that. So again, what could we keep doing that we've been doing, even if we go back to working not remotely anymore? And so just 3 minutes to wrap up. I really appreciated being copied on, and I love going to look at the Define Tomorrow ideas. Again, we have the shared document on Google. Thank you for everybody who's contributed things to that. I may just take it as the folks that I can see, or if you want to put something in the chat, that's great. We thought about hosting somewhat of an organizational-wide Zoom on these ideas. Further discussions, just, banter about a little bit, more information. If you'd be interested in participating in that, again, shoot me an email, put it in the chat box, because again, there's been some great ideas, and these proposals are due to the president on December 15th. So if we wanted to do something, I may even try to see if we could schedule something this week, just so we could, again, share some brainstorming ideas and maybe move forward on some of those. So again, just indicate if you're interested in doing that. And again, even if we don't do that, if you do submit, or have a team of folks that submit a proposal to the provost, according to her email, please just copy me on it, so I'm aware of it in case she comes back and says, geez, Hannah, we got a great idea from fill in the blank. And I'm like, well, I'm glad you did. Know nothing about it. Just would be happier to know something about it. And the other thing is, there's been a lot of talk, especially amongst faculty for academic programs. There's been a lot of surveys to students and to faculty who have been teaching and all those things. I think we need to do some sort of survey for extension. This is an internal survey for, number one, again, the response to this whole crisis, and then from this looking forward. And so I may reach out to some of you individually just to see if you might work on this, just because of past conversations that we may have had. But if you would like to work on this, please just reach out to me via email. And again, this would be looking at, number one, our response to this crisis. What did we learn? What could we do better? What issues may still be occurring that we need to really be aware of? And number two, it would be to look forward and what does this organization look like? And again, how do we take some of the good ideas that have been proposed through this process and maybe envision them here in Extension. So just reach out to me if you'd be interested in this. And again, really appreciate everybody's work, all your efforts. Just want to say thank you. And now we have 11 minutes. Sorry for shortchanging question and answer time, but certainly I will be available after this if you have continued questions, if you just want to reach out to me individually, but happy to open it up and take a breath if you have any questions, thoughts, anything like that. You can take yourselves off mute to ask them too. Maybe that's why it was so quiet. If there is nothing, that means we get an extra 10 minutes in the day that wasn't scheduled. I'm going to be quiet for another second though.
There's a question in the chat box.
Okay. All right, Master Gardeners. So, Marjorie. Marjorie, I'm gonna not defer this, but has I didn't know whether the home hort group has discussed this or made any new recommendations. Anybody from that group?
Well, we have put together a page online about how to grow food safely in community gardens.
Okay.
But that doesn't apply to Master Gardener volunteers.
Gotcha. I would say that it probably is going to encompass Master Gardener volunteers, the in-person programming, because while it was discussed as far as K through 12 entities, everybody else got encaptured around that because there are other adult volunteer programs that happen. I mean, Master Gardener certainly to me is one of the most stellar ones, but I would assume it would encompass Master Gardener volunteers as well, but I will check into that.
Mm-hmm. I just asked because they are growing food, which is
Right.
an essential service for people in need. That's why I thought it might be a little different. It's like farming.
Right. And it may, and I know that's come up many times, but I will look into that and I will get back to you and certainly let everybody else know as well, because I know Master Gardeners cut across every county that we have.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Frank is asking, does that mean through the end of July? Yeah, no in-person program.
Right now the recommendation, so again, this is a recommendation, it's not policy. Right now the recommendation will be through July, but that could change depending on the governor, CDC recommendations, and those type of things.
The home hort team is meeting tomorrow afternoon at 1:30 if it makes sense to have more discussion about it then.
I know it's come up a lot and a lot in certainly our state, but certainly this is one of the biggest questions that the Northeastern Extension directors have also talked about. It's common. Master Gardener programs are important to every one of our states, and I know it's come up. We've had a lot of cross-state conversation about it as well. I know here in Maine, mostly concerned because our Master Gardeners are of a majority vulnerable population, and again, how do we safely keep them safe and whatnot moving forward. I'm happy to take whatever recommendation you all come up with. If you want to talk about it tomorrow, happy to take whatever recommendation you come up with and run it up the chain as well.
Thank you.
Anything else? Again, oh, go ahead.
It's Catherine. I have a question. I might be kicking myself in the foot for asking this or whatever that saying is, but if there's groups of, and I get that it's still like not fully clear yet, but if there's groups of 4-Hers gathering to do things and it's not like a quote unquote 4-H program, but they're gathering together to do, say, like an animal science something and learn together, is that, I guess I'm just wondering, like are there ways that people can still get together but it's not a like formal program that might work, or is that?
I mean, I think those things are going to happen. I mean, let's be real. I mean, let's be honest. What they can't be is advertised as a 4-H club event or advertised as this is, you know, something that's happening on behalf of, you know, fill in the 4-H program or county or anything like that. We may need to really think about that, just because we know kids probably aren't the best social distancers. Is that even a word? Probably. But you know, how could that be done safely? But right now I would say kind of feels like a 4-H program, and we probably wouldn't encourage it to happen.
Okay, thanks.
Yep.
This is Donna. I have a question. We have a One Tomato program that it's been, I think, 6 or 7 years that we give away about 400 cherry tomato seedlings. It's very time sensitive. It has to be done end of May, the first part of June. And the events that we usually go to are not happening, but we had started planning to go out into the different communities, either at a grocery store or a town office, to hand out the tomato plants. We do need to get some information from people, and we do need to give them information on how to grow the tomatoes. So is this something that we can't do? The plants are ordered. We're committed to it. If we can't do this, then there'll be 400 plants that I'm not sure what we'll do with.
Even though I don't like tomatoes, I can't be responsible for that many tomato deaths. And I like them and stuff. But Donna, I think we can do this. I think this is one of those things we think through. And is the table set up with you appropriately 6 feet behind it with a face mask and with some clipboards that, you know, folks touch and that you don't have to touch necessarily? And again, can they then take a plant? You're not handing them.
We're thinking about putting the tomato seedling in a paper bag with the growing information, have a separate card that they fill out, and have a bunch of like the little pencils or something. Yep. Just use the pencil once and dump the card and the pencil in a bucket, and we'll let it sit for a few days.
I think we can make that happen.
Okay.
Yep.
Whew.
Yeah, and I've said this before, and I really mean it, is I've been really impressed with the university wanting to make things happen. Again, I know some people have had some travel denied and some research denied, and that's, you know, not without a lot of thought and concern of how can we make sure this happens safely and not put anybody in jeopardy. But I want to try to be able to make things happen. It's my nature to be a, yeah, let's do it, versus a, like, I want, if given the druthers, I would think that the master gardeners are probably the best behaved group of volunteers that we probably have, not taking anything away from any of our other volunteers, but I feel like they'd probably be majority rule followers, and I would have their face coverings and do all the appropriate things. But, again, just how do we make sure to keep everybody safe? The biggest concern is we don't want to be that headline of, COVID-19 and, fill in the blank extension program or county office or camp or any of those things. So
Donna, UMaine Extension has a resource on exactly that. I just put it in the chat box on how to move seedlings safely.
Yeah.
Oh, look, thank you, Jason.
Well, but that's for farmers, and it's like, this is for extension. just wanted to make sure if we use the seedling sale information, if as an extension representative, if we could advertise it and promote it. That
And
type of.
yeah, and I think we could absolutely do that. Just seeing Lily sent a question about field meetings for farmers who do not have internet. Again, Lily, I think we're going to have to get some clarification on the in-person programming. I think that falls under like the master gardeners. My hope would be at some point, you know, again, I know summer and field days, there's a lot of them that happen, is figuring out if those move forward, let's say possibly whether it's July or August or sometime this fall, is how do we ensure that they could move forward, again, safely following all the right procedures and things like that. So that would be one of those things that if you are doing a field day or something of that sort, is to really think about how could you do it? What could it look like? What would we have to provide to participants? As far as like, again, face masks, or, you know, we probably couldn't do a huge food something afterwards with having 100 people sit down for a luncheon or something like that. So these are the things that we need to be thinking about now. So when we do get some of these policies, is we've thought about them to figure out how to make them work for our events. But certainly I will ask about those type of meetings as well as the master gardeners too. Anything else? I know it's 4:01. I do appreciate everybody joining. Again, I hope everybody's doing well, enjoying this wonderful weather before the black flies come, because I hear they're coming. And I look forward to seeing you all next month. Between now and then, certainly if you need anything, please do not hesitate to reach out, and we'll figure things out as they come. So have a great rest of your day, everybody. Stay tuned for the email that I promised you. I'll finish it up and send it right out. So thank you all.